in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I don't. I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama. If you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush, to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries
Well,
now that
yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of
Yep.
him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything
Yeah.
the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in
What if we can
Ukraine than you read
pause a
about. You don't
live?
read about how bloody it is and how disaster. Hey,
Sure.
look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And
Yeah.
Ukraine's
It's
having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated
I'm gonna be
Napoleon.
right
They've
back.
been around
Gotta
a
go
long
take care of the
time. They're
wife
a
real
big
quick. Hold on.
fighting force,
Yeah. So, of
and it's
course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a
Yeah.
man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
Yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
No,
whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and that's it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And
we're going to do is
it's
we're going to
yeah.
build an iron dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best iron dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an iron dome? Israel has one. Some other places
Yeah.
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an iron dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they
Absolutely. Sure.
can't buy groceries. because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen. And it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah.
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No, they
you.
could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry
What
is
got
what
canceled yet?
Kamala and Biden
They
have
get
allowed to
canceled yet?
happen to the
Not yet?
economy. It's
Okay.
a disaster with
Just somebody
inflation.
spoke.
The inflation, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government
Oh,
spends
there
far
we
more
go.
than it brings in, that
Yeah, I'm back.
increases the money supply. And if the money supply
Sorry, I had
increases
to feed the
faster than
wife
the
real
rate of
quick.
goods
Let me
and
see.
services,
Sure.
that's inflation.
Thanks,
Um,
anybody that's tuning
so
in. I just had
really,
to
we
jump
need
on
to
this.
have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit every
Where's the
That's
roughly
check?
right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah,
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
yeah,
prices down. Energy started it. The price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline,
If
Elon,
anybody's
is
tuned in, thank you for
the
tuning in.
the cost
I'm
of
going to do a
energy. Not only
reaction to it, but I got
gasoline,
to
it's the
listen to
cost of
the
heating your
information
house and
first.
cooling your house.
Thanks for
That
tuning in to
has
Personal
to come
BS.
down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah,
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable, wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
yeah,
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
yeah,
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So
It's
you're going to
interesting.
have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be
Where is the
competitive
check?
with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going
sure.
to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah,
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people
Sounds like his
making checks,
dentures are
and
moving
you end
around a
up
little
with two
bit, though. I will
companies,
say
and
that.
they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s, and the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. Other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one, and I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, and you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items, and
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah, yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina,
Well, I'd be happy to
yeah. By
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the
I
number of
think they
people that are
done cut
listening
me
to you and
off, but
I
I don't know.
chat. We'll call
I
it a
can't
chat.
figure it out right now.
But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is
Can't see
very.
the chat.
I mean, it's great. It's and
Can't
and
talk
you're
to
an
nobody.
interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big.
Malay's awesome.
He's great, and
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that he ran on MAGA, and he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yeah. Exactly.
2,000%. They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have. I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah.
effectively, and having just so many departments you can't even name them all, um, and what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending, he's simplifying things, he's having putting in regulations that make sense, and I and we're Argentina overnight is
Elon Musk
experiencing
sucks as an
giant
interviewer. Let's
improvements
That's
in
right.
also
prosperity.
mention that.
But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that um, Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
in the I think in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy we can run the country into the ground, and that's that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to
Somebody
the
please
top. They're a
glue this
top
man's
6 or 7.
dentures up
But we're
correctly.
ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where
Yeah,
Oh, did
states
he say
like
close the
Iowa,
Department
where
of
states
Education?
like Idaho, not every state will do great because
You're
states that
right.
basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
Newscomb.
He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
yeah,
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15
yeah,
of them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run,
Sure.
and maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation.
Yeah.
But if you think
Well,
about it,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
you'll
know. I
have
mean,
some
I
of these
don't know.
states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
yeah,
half what it is in Washington. And
yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd
Well,
be unbelievable.
He
yeah.
said they'll be forgotten
I
about
think you're
out there.
making a
Don't worry
good
about
point
them.
in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through it. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah,
but some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do it good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
yeah,
the cost you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And
Okay.
you'd have a little
yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean, to what some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award
What do the
because
people
they're
say though,
driving
man?
so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? Uh, I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah.
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
Yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just
Oh, there's the
go on?
chat.
It's
Okay.
not it's
Well,
not a good
I think
situation.
Sorry.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right,
government.
right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going to
only thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them to change.
You remember the
Yeah.
area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very
Yeah.
nasty
Yeah.
for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business. and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these,
Yep.
and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Okay.
Well, I think that I mean the larger point here too.
All
I mean,
right.
as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy. A lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money
Yeah.
and for people that are working day to day.
Yeah,
It's
not
just
y'all
it's
that
just
are
a form
talking
of
right now.
taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and
Yeah.
that's a really big
Well, the
deal.
people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing
Bacon.
4 or 5
Let's
times more
talk.
than it did a few years
Sure.
ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah,
it's sticker
I
shock.
think
They
it.
call it
Yeah,
sticker shock, right?
Sticker shock.
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two
I
things, which
paid
is that if you
$9 for
solve the
some bacon the
government
other day
overspending, you
for
solve
like
inflation, which
a
improves living
pound.
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I
You
think
brought up Reagan? Dude, that was
there's
the 80s,
opportunity to
man.
make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation.
Yeah.
And if
Half of the
Well, Elon,
voters
we
weren't
those
even
two things,
born yet.
yeah, those are the big
yeah
deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more uh, restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yeah,
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever, maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But
yeah,
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for
sure.
businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're
We're still
sitting on
live?
the
That says we're still live.
biggest
All right.
pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. He
Man,
didn't
let's
need
not
it
talk
anymore.
about the debt.
We
Here
got
we
over
go with
that
that.
bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the
Yeah.
great, and
And
you
make
know
sure you
that
hit that like
probably
button if
better
you're
than
watching
anybody.
too.
So many of your friends said to me,
We're all
the
here
best
together. I'm
years
just
we've ever
listening right
had in
now. We're
business
talking a second.
were during the Trump years, and also said that uh, African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then
Were
COVID
we?
came, and
Sure.
we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our
Mm,
country.
Yeah, yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah, and
It sounds good.
I mean, I should probably say something about like
Not
maybe my
true, but it
views
sounds good.
on climate change
Yeah,
and oil and gas, because I think I'm probably different from what most people would assume, because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should
You're right on
vilify
that.
the oil and gas
All them
industry.
stimulus checks, that was some
People have worked
trillions
very hard in those
they paid
industries
for
to
that.
provide the necessary energy to support the economy, and if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So it's I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and I the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other
that's true.
countries, and it would help with prosperity in the U.S.
Yeah, can we get
But
some
at the
lower
same
gas?
time,
We
I
got
also want to
oil in
point to
Texas.
is
Can we
like
get some of that?
we do over time want to move
That'd be
to
cool.
a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite, um, and there is some risk. I think it's not the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming, or you know uh, prevent people from having steaks, or
Right,
basic stuff
right.
like that. Like you leave the farmers alone,
I agree.
in
How
my opinion.
crazy is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I just say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it. To get rid of it.
Unimprove it.
He ended it. His uh, his secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure,
Yeah.
really good stuff. And, they
Got
end
that
it.
good
So I
stuff
think
up
we
there.
have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
Yeah.
during that
I mean,
time,
my
something will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more uh, aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. Um, but I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, I mean, I think some of that, it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3
Right.
to say 5. And then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. Um, and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's
Oh my
that's
God,
just like
Elon,
anything
say
with
what you're saying,
even
dude.
without global
Jeez.
warming, it's not comfortable to live. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think I think we want to just move over, and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know,
Yo,
mostly
I swear.
sustainable, I think that'll probably be okay. Um, so it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term. I think this can be done without, people can still have, a stake, and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars, and it's
He
okay. It's like
frustrates
it's
me
not.
the way he
I don't think we
talks.
should
I'm
go on other
sorry.
people first, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way. And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla is trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that
I
our cars
suffer when I look at that ugly ass
provide
Cybertruck, though.
class.
That was
They're
suffrage.
sexy. I mean, they're cool.
Thing
Like
is
literally,
ugly.
I mean, the sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It was probably the most expensive joke out there.
Yeah, but he didn't
But
say that
I guess I
Cybertruck,
like to
though.
see
He
humor in
didn't
there.
say
So,
that. Thing looks like a
and
fat chick on a
I'm
Sunday.
kind of like, let's have an inspiring future, and
Yep.
let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay.
You know,
It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first, but it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good,
yeah,
at least in certain areas of the country where you have the world
sure.
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea
Only
because
certain
this is my
places in the world
backyard.
have the sun.
I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me,
Sure.
that's an immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower.
Yeah, they're
Russia
humping
and us
away.
are
They're going to
number
catch us.
one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even
Yeah.
surpassing.
See, if
But to
you're
me, the
given a
biggest problem
Cybertruck, I'll take
is
one if I
not
was given a Cybertruck.
climate
I'm
change.
talking
It's not,
about would I go to the
and
dealership
everything's
looking
a
for one?
problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big
Those things
problem
look
is
just
the
like the
nuclear power.
dumpster
The
at the
power
back of the
of
convenience
nuclear
store
is so great. And when I talk
Yeah,
about I'll
nuclear power is
prevent
with
world,
underrated.
yeah,
It's
windows.
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
Yeah.
III, I will. But the truth is that you have to because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is
Absolutely. You're
underrated,
right.
and it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. Um, and if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining
Right.
operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that,
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have it,
name. The name is just, it's a rough name. There are some areas
yeah, it's a rough
like when
name.
you see what happened in,
Good bad
right,
branding. The
we'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. No, it has it has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
It does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they, a lot of bad things
Chernobyl.
happened,
Yeah, come on,
and
man.
they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad,
No, that's not true.
but you're
Well,
right
no,
about it. It's amazing.
it's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually, it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. Um, and
So
I
he ate a
donated
cucumber,
a solar water treatment,
put some
solar power
eggplant in his mouth.
system for a water treatment plant. And
Yeah, but you haven't
because the
been
danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
I'm
it's just
only kidding.
it's fine, It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full
But now
cities
we're
again.
cool.
It's really not something that
That's
um,
right.
so it's not as scary as people think, basically. But
Yeah.
um, let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about.
what they've done to this country.
Obviously,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I
case in
mean,
Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use local DAs, they use the local attorney generals like Fani, spelled
yeah,
Fani, Fani, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, the one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before,
Sure.
and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare.
Yeah,
It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never
yeah,
happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens? What
yeah,
happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does
yeah,
he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and
See if my sound
it's
effects are working.
ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that
right.
for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't lift it. The whole thing.
It's clearly not, I mean,
Oh,
it's
that was
clearly
loud.
we just don't have a
Sorry.
president right
You
now.
don't have a
Right?
president, and she's going to be worse than him
Um,
because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our
Yeah.
country is becoming a very dangerous place. And she is a radical left San Francisco liberal. And now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's
You know, she
yeah,
wants to release all the
yeah,
prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
right.
That just came
Yeah, I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She
Yeah,
doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. You know, in your business, everything you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, you know, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add
yeah,
200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
yeah. This is simply not true.
Yeah,
This is simply
no,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows
it's
it's
simply not
not true.
true.
It's a disgrace that she can
Yeah.
say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of
Yeah,
overnight
and I
is
don't care
they're
about the stuff Trump was
rewriting
convicted of
history
either.
And making
Just personally,
Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she
I
is
don't
far
like
left, like
murderers
far,
and
far left.
Worse than Bernie
pedophiles. Them
Sanders.
two, I
She
don't
is
mess with them.
considered
But some
Yeah,
of
more
this other
liberal
stuff
by
is like,
far
eh.
than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country
By the
anymore.
way, they're
And
gonna
she'll go
scorch
back to
him for
all
these
of
yeah,
the things that
comments
she believes in.
later,
She
but it's all
believes in
audio, so
defunding the
it's not gonna be
police.
fun for the
She
media.
believes in no fracking, zero. You don't. Now all of a
yeah,
sudden she's saying, no, I will. I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, uh, they won't vote for her. You know, like the
yeah,
Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. You know, both sides. That was a hard
yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think it's highly
That's
disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, you know, is very pro Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
yeah,
appropriate, swamped. But they
yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves. You know, they just obliterate the whole
Yeah,
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
yeah,
she'll
What
be
you mean
worse
these
than him
people?
because she's a believer
yeah. No,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last like month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well,
So I
her
think
running
that,
mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, Now,
Yeah,
that's all I
that's
have to
weird.
hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms. And that means she
Yeah,
believes in that too. I mean,
yeah, that's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as a president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive.
He makes it
I think
sound
we're
real
we're in
scary though. He
massive
does that
trouble.
really well.
Frankly, with the Kamala administration, and
It's
that's an
like we're
honest
not gonna
opinion.
survive. It's gonna be
And
destruction,
and
decimation.
I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean that's I'm just stating my opinion. Um, now you know you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the
I got a
EU
letter from a government
saying
the other day.
to not have
I opened
disinformation
the Reddit. They
on
said they were suckers.
during this discussion that we're having. Like, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries. And um, what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. You know, we have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which
What?
people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not
The
as tough as China. They're
EU.
bad, and I let them know it.
Ew.
And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, you know, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. It's if you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. When you say as us, and they're in,
Yeah,
and they're in much greater risk. They they're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. Used to be for the
yeah,
Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is uh, they're in for 70 something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they
yeah,
should, they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States
yeah.
was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went
Yeah,
in and I said, you
yeah,
got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in, and
yeah. I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses,
and then we get
even though
taken
like
advantage of on trade. So think
yeah,
about it.
well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair, and that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well,
Um,
when you talk about
so
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are
Uh
more
oh.
dangerous for our country than the Russians and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now, they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to uh, inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory.
Yeah, Zelensky need
But
to
the beauty
need
is
to.
that
They need
we
to
can
just
have a
work that stuff out
conversation.
over there. Why we
I
got to
mean,
be all in
I'm
Russia
heading out
and
without
Ukraine
just
and
like
all that?
because
Ukraine's
It's a
top
really big
export
point.
is
You can actually
corn.
have a conversation.
We got corn everywhere here.
that's nice, isn't
Don't
it?
need
Can't have a
Ukraine for
conversation
nothing,
with Biden
Russia
and
for
Kamala.
nothing.
It's not possible.
That's true.
Um, so it's like talking to an NPC.
No.
So it's just
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner.
Danger, danger, danger.
Really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, "Oh, do you think you will?"
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it. But I guess you are. You should be allowed to say
I
it.
get the strategy of it. I
We
don't
need
see why we got to keep sending them money.
People that have
That's all I'm saying.
an ability to lead, and she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole concept
Yeah.
is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible, but she's getting a free ride. I
It
saw a
was-
picture of her
Yeah.
on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually,
Yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look,
Yeah.
she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll
Did
leave it
she
at that.
say?
Right?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the future is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future.
They want the American
I think
dream back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
Right.
could build high speed connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. Um, it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
I'm
You know,
all for anything that helps traffic, though. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I can't stand traffic.
So, and
You want to win my vote? Tell me that you're gonna eliminate traffic.
China's got incredible high-speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation, with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high-speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high-speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With people, with crazy
Yeah,
people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess. And
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have
They're
anything like that
unbelievably
here,
expensive
not
too
even
for
close.
most average people, but
And
it's
it
yeah.
still
doesn't make
fun.
sense that we
Nice
don't.
idea.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that um that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives.
I
And
worked very hard on that. We got that down
yeah,
to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
yeah,
got some things done very
12 years.
quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
yeah. It just takes too long, and you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, that improves people's lives. I
yeah,
think but I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and
yep,
you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal, or takes forever, and then we just we just ossify as a society. Uh, we can't make any
yeah.
progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the
Yeah, they're gonna
pharmaceutical
die
companies,
anyway.
nobody
That's
wanted
what
it.
he's saying.
I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah,
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't because I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
sure,
Somebody signed, you signed a document that you're not going to sue the
It's
insurance
called a
companies, the
waiver.
country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully you never need it. But if you
yeah,
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
right,
if they had money, they go to
yeah,
Asia, they go
sure,
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happens. They go home and
yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they got more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've
Hold
been
on, I
trying
need
to do
some
it for
juice.
50
My
years, and they
sugar's
just
low.
couldn't
Hold
get
on.
it done. And I got it done, and it's really something. But you're right. some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
Yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so, so long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons and like these are the risks, these are this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah.
nervous because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
Well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow.
terms of
That's a
people
that's a
that
big.
ultimately,
That's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this, are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always
It's grape
try to
juice,
dig
guys.
around
It's
to by
grape
just
juice.
asking
Okay.
people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well, did what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just
They
know that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't even they don't even bother reporting it because there's not. They know that there's not. They're not going to. People are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York
The only one
with
that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get, they prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed
Oh,
up
it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yeah.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the
That's right.
public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a
I'm ready to
very
go to
bad
bed
precedent
on
what
these
they're doing
dudes,
in terms
man.
of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent,
Yeah,
and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge, and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
yeah,
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
sure,
also be the other way,
of
though,
course.
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
Exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep.
losing. New York
Absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So all of that stuff is important, but the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah.
Turn
I
up.
think there's a lot of
right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I
want
think
to
I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You
Fertile.
and I can talk about rockets
it's
and,
kind of you to say. Thank you.
well, tunnels. We can talk about
Pause.
tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty. I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a
I
lot of
think that's a
things.
very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like some so they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries helping with the environment, and and I actually I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not
Hmm.
like I'm like some sort of dyed in the wool long term Republican. I call myself, uh, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and uh, I think a lot of people thought the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously that we're just going to see an even further left uh, administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. Um, that's how she was brought up. So. Uh, and we want to have a future that is prosperous, and I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road,
It's true.
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also
Yep.
experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself. And but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say I think you should support um, Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if they don't, if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have
yeah.
your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America, and now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California, and she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope the elections are going to be run honestly, and we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at
Yeah.
us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you their
Yeah,
crime
it's
rates
definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go. You and I will go, and we'll have a
Don't say
meeting and
that
dinner
one,
in
Donald Trump.
Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down, and our crime rate's going through the roof. And it's so simple. And it's, you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police, we have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's actually demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal and then the DA doesn't prosecute and that's let the guy out.
Yeah.
Well, then like why should a police officer risk their life uh, to arrest a
All
violent
right,
felon
Well,
they
even
if
worse,
they
Elon,
boring me
nothing's going to
now.
happen?
even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension. They take away his
Yeah.
job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yeah.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is
All right, now
that is
can't get
that
it
is
to
a gross
stop.
indignity against
That's
the United
cool.
States, and that's how. I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous
All right.
profession, but something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand up fighting.
All right, you know what? I can't do it no more. I didn't had enough of that. The only reason why I had to do that was because I was trying to watch that conversation on YouTube, and YouTube decided to shut down the entire Tesla US channel. But it was because Elon decided to spend an hour trying to sell everybody Bitcoin, and that goes against community guidelines, sir. Can't do that. Or maybe you got to check that little box. My video contains paid promotion or whatever. But the bottom line is this. I wanted to try to listen. I said try to. I can't listen to Elon talk to people because, no disrespect, but he stumbles over his words too much, and I move quicker than that. So that stumbling makes me frustrated. So I can't listen to him. Trump, on the other hand, he said his piece. He doesn't seem to be able to stay away from insults when he's dealing with his discussions and his answers. That is not going to bode well for him later because his insults are going to be directed at a woman when it comes to Kamala Harris. And America doesn't like men bullying on women at all. It's kind of funny when you do it from one guy to another guy, but if you start bullying women or a woman, I don't think the American public's going to like that too much, and I don't see him being able to not do that. So that's not going to go well. I do think that as far as his answers to the questions in the interview, he answered them. You know what I'm saying? He answered those questions, and if you had some questions about his answers, which I'm sure some of us do, you'll probably just have to stay tuned. He's Donald Trump's very talkative. So if you just give him a minute, he'll tell you everything you want to know, about how he feels about something. word choice. I think he needs to really be mindful of the destructivism, as I call it. Like everything is a danger and everything is decimating and destroying and, you know what I'm saying? Dismantling and just a lot of this and not too much of that, you know? And I worry about that because some people's minds can be they're easily malleable, as the word would be. Meaning they can be kind of formed into whatever opinion somebody else wants them to have. So this is going to be an interesting election year. I'm not sure if I'm voting yet. I need to see something from both sides. I'm an Indepublicrat, firmly and proudly. You must earn my vote or I do not vote. It's as simple as that. I'll vote for some stuff I actually know about. Local elections, things like that. But as far as the presidential votes, if you haven't earned it, and I don't really want you to win, like I don't want to help you win, then no, I'm not voting for nobody. And you can miss me with the whole, your ancestors fought for your vote. Yeah, and they also fought for me to vote for good candidates. And if I don't have those in front of me, then I'm not voting. I don't want to be responsible for that craziness that gets put into that office if some craziness gets put in that office. That's all I'm saying. So I know a lot of folks don't understand that Donald Trump represents a different segment of the population that's not politicians. And that group has unity as well. Okay? So I know everybody's pumped up about Kamala Harris right now. I think it's cool to have this brown woman, as the nominee. That in and of itself is still a first. So whether she wins or not, she's still historic in that regard. But I think even in Donald Trump's interview, when there's a lack of substance, what he'll do is go to like insults. And people don't want to hear that all the time. I mean, it's funny. It's good for content. It's good for content. But, you're the president. So I don't really want to see you doing the dozens with the person you're debating with. I want to hear about the price of bacon and why it's so high. Why are these pigs asking for so much for their ass? Why? Pigs are that much more valuable now than they were so many years ago? Those are actual animals. The animals have gone, and the animals inflation? Really? I'm gonna let that alone because I'm not one of those types of people that can deal with the financial aspect of things. But if you tell me that bacon is more expensive, then that means that pigs are more expensive. So why are pigs more expensive? I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. But I do love bacon. So they know if they raise that price, I'm going to still get me some of that. I'm going to still get me some of that. So all my bacon lovers, Trump did identify that, he was upset about the price of bacon. And so far in this election, that is the only thing I can specifically say that I just 100% agree with any candidate on is the price of bacon is too damn high. It is. I like bacon with my breakfast, but I shouldn't have to make, gas decisions as to whether or not I want to have that nice breakfast. Now, when I did the little, I guess you could call it a simulcast of the X interview, if you want to call it that, it was because when I went on I was on YouTube initially, and the Tesla channel, which had like 12 million subscribers on it, got removed. And that's what this screenshot is right here, if you can see it, is the Tesla channel. Channel got removed because it violated the community guidelines. And the reason why was because Elon decided to spend an hour and a half trying to sell people Bitcoin. And you can't do that. And somebody probably reported it as some type of spammy situation. and they shut the Tesla US channel down. So if it can happen to him, it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. But do understand that somebody's paying attention to what you're doing online. And, you know, I think that video, I mean, not video, but that interview was all right. It was all right, but it was no more moving to me than Shannon Sharp interviewing Cat Williams. Just being real. But I do agree with Donald Trump. The price of bacon is too high. So that's one thing we definitely see eye to eye on, and he seems to be concerned with, and that would directly affect me. Their stance on abortion does not affect me. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that word, but you know what? It's an election season. Everybody's talking about it. But their stance on, birth termination, it doesn't really matter to me because I'm only really responsible for my own children and my, my family. And my family don't get down like that. So we don't care if it's illegal or what, because that's not how we get down. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like how folks in northern states don't understand the problems at the border because they don't see all that. They up somewhere else where that's not going on. So to them, it's not a big deal. But there's a lot of different people here in America, and they're all looking for a break. Everybody. And whichever one of these two candidates offers the best break is probably who's going to win. Because you know what? We can be excited and happy as hell for Kamala Harris, but it doesn't put a dime in my pocket to help feed my family. You understand what I'm saying? So let's celebrate her for being the nominee. That's historical in and of itself. Like I said, she doesn't have to win anything to still be etched in history. So we can celebrate that. And we can celebrate the possibility that, we may end up with her as a president. But what we also have to keep in mind is, what quality of president are we about to get on either side? You know what I'm saying? Like, really think about that. Now, I ain't going to get too deep into it tonight because, like I said, I'm tired. And listening to that interview, man, was putting me to sleep. Like, them guys, whew. Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And Trump's dentures was not holding right, man. You think with all that money, he would get the right glue, make sure them joints was holding. But yeah, so YouTube shut the whole thing down. And it never aired on actual YouTube. It just became an audio situation on X, where he also tried to market to you and make you buy some other stuff. So just for the record, Elon, I don't like that you keep doing stuff like this and trying to make people buy Bitcoin and stuff like that. If Bitcoin is that, Bitcoin is that. I'm not talking about Bitcoin as the thing that's being sold. I'm talking about the shameless plug-in of these products that you want everybody to purchase because those purchases put more money directly in your pocket. And I just think it's disingenuous to start out the whole Trump interview, rope us all in for about 30, 40 minutes or more, depending on how many people were actually on there, and then flip it up to become basically a sales pitch. It was disrespectful, Mr. Musk. It's very disrespectful. The American people ain't standing for it. So what did the American people and myself end up doing? We turned around and just rebroadcasted it across YouTube right from our computers and did what it was we wanted to do. Would have been nice to have video, but you probably would have pulled it down for copyright or some crap like that. So today it was an audio. Tomorrow might be a video. Day after, who knows? But what I do know is that Donald Trump in that interview did not necessarily swing me in either direction. It was just him being his regular self and saying stuff the way his regular self be saying it. The things that he would think are extreme, he's still talking about stuff he didn't finish when he was the president the last time. So he's like, yeah, I'm coming back to office so I can finish the wall that I started on so many years ago. I get it, but I just think that's a waste. It's a waste of time, money, and resources. They should just get more agents out there, more border patrol agents, instead of building a whole bunch of walls and stuff, because they've been getting past the walls. They get over them, they get under them. It's not a tough thing for them, according to the migrants. But yeah, guys, so if you are on here, I don't know who actually got a chance to view this live, and I'm hoping that the audio was good. If it wasn't, I apologize. I jumped on this as soon as I could because I really thought that we should listen to this together and understand that whatever's going on is designed to change our lives. So I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I just want to thank y'all for anybody who stopped in, anybody that hit the like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to talk some more of this a little bit later, but for right now, I got to go.